Well, here we are. Thoughts from the office. Rednecks Pride Outdoors. I was talking to Brian Flowers the other day, and like so many times, he'll call me or I'll call him just to talk for 2 or 3 minutes, and we end up talking for an hour about anything and everything. But the other day when we was talking about bait and scent usage. And other things like trap position and trap presentation. But I think the longest thought process we had speaking to each other was on scent usage. Brian and I are similar in our mindsets. Different from a lot of fur trappers, definitely, and different from a lot of ADC wildlife control folks, definitely. And the difference is this: Brian believes, and I believe, multiple odors, multiple scents, multiple baits. Now, when we're talking about foot traps, it's going to be a little bit different than dog proofs or cage traps, but it's the same principle. It's the same thought process. And I got to thinking on when I'm doing my talks at the South Jersey Trapping and Snaring School with Nude and Morgan. As I'm talking about bait and scent usage, everybody kind of simplifies it in their brain, and it is simple. It is. Don't. I'm not getting too deep here, but the person should understand the differences of baits and lures and what those differences mean in reaction to the animal's reactions or what the animal is going to do. And you've heard me talk before about the two main classifications of trapline and smell, or trapline and ADC. We call it ADC because it's marketed for ADC work, for cage traps and what have you, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work in fur trapping. I developed my ADC line of baits and lures way back in 1987. That's how long I've been making taste baits and lures. And I made them for the cage traps. And the reason I made them for the cage traps was because the trap line lures, especially, that I was using successfully with the foot trap before we lost the foot trap. In other words, we lost the foot trap in 1984. We stopped using it in 1986. So from 86 on, I couldn't use a foot trap. So all the baits and lures that I was using, Carmen's, Hallbaker's, Blackie's Blend, Jameson, Miranda, all these baits and lures that I was making that was working successfully for me prior to 1986, when it came to cage traps, wasn't working. It was working somewhat, but not working like I needed it to work. So by 1987 is when I finally came out with my taste baits and lures, to be made with cage traps, then later on to be used with Conibear boxes, and to be used in foot trapping even, okay? And taste baits and lures is simply this: a bait or a lure that once the animal gets to, the taste is good, and they continue on for another taste or more of it. Your trapline baits and lures typically are going to be aged. It could be rotted glands, could be rotted down meat, could be rotted down and stabilized, could be all kinds of things, but it's not made for taste. It's made, if you look at the directions, catch the animal before it gets to the bait or lure. Taste baits and lures, the animal can get to it before it's caught. All right, it's that simple. Now, where we was getting into the baits and lure talk, Brian and I was talking, and I've had so many talks with other folks out there, is when we're dealing with bait and lure, especially us as a fur trapper. I'm a fur trapper. I've been a fur trapper for over 55 years now. I was a fur trapper before I got into ADC Wildlife Control. When I retire from ADC Wildlife Control, I will be a fur trapper still until the day they lay me in the ground. Okay, so I'm a fur trapper and ADC now until I retire, and then I'm only going to be a fur trapper. But anyway, getting back to it, we all tend to take things and simplify it in our brains. One shoe fits all, one glove fits all, one hat fits all. We want everything to work one fits all. That's what we want to do. Why? We don't have to think about it. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to overthink it. We can just be a machine. The problem is, as well as the machine works, 85% of the time, 90% of the time, the machine doesn't work other parts of the time, and then we got to figure things out. Now, one of the things as I'm talking to folks and talking about baits and lures is, again, everybody puts their thought process into food. And when I ask the question, are animals hungry? They say yes. Are they starving? Some people say yes, some people say no. But the truth of the matter is, the typical animal is not super hungry. It's hungry when it leaves the den in the evening. And it's, how long is it hungry for? Realistically, hungry, first couple hours, gets its fill, and then what's it do for the rest of the night? It's a critter. Now, if it's cold, it's going to be hungrier more, and it's going to want to eat more throughout the night. But in our fall and especially in the summertime for you wildlife control people, in the fall, summer, spring, the animals aren't hungry at all. They're hungry when they come out, they nibble, they eat, but they get filled up probably in the first hour. Now, where am I going with this? It's simple. I've found through my research, if you want to call it research, but my test sites, I found that, and we'll use raccoons for the example. I found that raccoons, in the first couple hours of after dark, after they leave their den, for the first couple hours, they will eat readily, and protein type baits and lures work very well on raccoons the first few hours of the night. Now, that protein could be fish, it could be meat, it could be, you name it, amino acids, that type of stuff. They work very well in the first few hours of the night, but then as they get filled up, okay, I noticed that those proteins, those fish, those meat baits, the effectiveness, if you will, according to my video cameras, wears off. Not that they're not attracted to it, it's just they're not as attracted to it as much as they was in the first hour. And that after the first few hours of darkness, when the raccoons have eaten their fill, now it's when those sweet baits and lures really come into play. I also found the same thing with spring, summer, and fall on red fox and gray fox. It's not a secret that persimmon is highly attracted to red fox and gray fox. Grape is attracted to is a smell that gray fox and red fox are attracted to. Apples. There's a lot of those sweets. And what we find is this, that as the protein, the meal, the dinner, the supper is taken care of. Now it's snack time. Now, people, the first thing a guy said to me a while back was, well, why do they keep killing rabbits? It's because it's their instinct. A fox is going to kill a rabbit because that's what he does. He sees a rabbit right in front of him, he's going to go after it and he's going to kill it, if he's hungry or not. If he's not hungry, what's he going to do? He's going to bury it and hide it for tomorrow night. Okay. Raccoons are going to kill crayfish and minnows all night long. But I have seen where raccoons come into a koi pond and just kill 3 or 4 fish and let them lay. Why? The excitement of the kill. So where am I getting at on here? This is one of the philosophies that Brian and I both discuss, and we have, is multiple odors, multiple products at a set. Why? Now, the fur trapper says, why do I want to waste that much money? Well, first of all, if you really look at it, it's nickels and dimes and pennies that you're wasting, if you call it wasting. But just what I just said to you. If I have a Mr. Raccoon walking down this stream bank low, if it's a young coon or if it's a big old coon, he's walking up on top, or I have a fox running down that edge of that field, or I have a coyote, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, in all reality, that coyote has probably already eaten its meal for supper. It's probably already eaten supper. Now it's cruising being a coyote. Now it's cruising being a red fox. Now it's cruising to being a gray fox. Now it's cruising to be a raccoon or a mink. Okay? And what we see at this point is this. I can put odor number 1, chicken, down in that hole. I have seen where the fox comes up to that hole with a piece of chicken. Matter of fact, I got a video that I show at the South Jersey Trapping and Snaring School of a red fox on a job that I put out a piece of meat on the ground, put the camera on it. The fox came by, smelled it, and went on its way. Just a piece of meat. I can't remember what time it was in the morning, but it was like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. About 2 to 3 hours later, on the timestamp, that fox comes back and devours that piece of meat. That piece of meat that it went past the first time and ignored. It was just a piece of meat. All right? First time, didn't ignore it. Come back the second time and ignored it. I have on video where foxes, gray foxes especially, will come up, stick their nose down in the hole, walk off. Come up, stick their nose down in the hole the next day or a couple hours later, walk off. Do that 3 or 4 times, and all of a sudden, tear the hole out. Like there's no tomorrow to get that bait that it's been sticking its nose in for the last 3 or 4 times and ignored it. See, this is the stuff that makes me think. Like Brian says, I'm building a rocket ship. But this is the stuff that makes me think. You see, this is why I am a firm believer. If I was going to use a dirt hole, and I intend to trap in a couple of different states. I want to trap PA and Delaware this year if I can get time, and with the leg holes. And I'll be using dirt holes in my fox sets, and I'll be using 3 cents or a bait and 2 cents or whatever at each dirt hole. Why? Because I don't know what the mood of that fox is going to be when he comes down. I don't know if he's going to be at supper time. I don't know if he's going to be at breakfast time. I don't know if he's going to be at snack time. I don't know if he's going to be in any other in between. I don't know if he just killed a rabbit 10 minutes before he gets to my set. I don't know. So what I do is I take 3 different odors. I'll put maybe a good bait that he wants to eat and dig for it down in the hole. Then I'll put maybe a taste bait, or lure on the lip that if he gets a lick of it, he likes it. And then I'll do a curiosity or a territory or a matrix lure there also to catch their curiosity. So no matter what mood or phase or mindset that fox is in when he comes by, I've got a good possibility to spark, to chip away at one of his interests and get him to work that hole. Listen, you know, never mind, I won't say that. It's just going to get me in trouble. But I'll say this. Not every animal is going to work your dirt hole, your flat set, or whatever. Okay? We'll just leave it at that. So, when we talk about that type of a strategy with a foot trap, that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 3 different odors, and sometimes I'll use a 4th one. All right? And then there are times with my cage traps, if you ever look at my demos or instructions or whatever, with my cage traps, I'm going to use 3 baits and 4 lures. Now, when I'm talking to you about 3 baits and 4 lures, I'm not talking about gobs. I'm talking about that much. I'm talking about 3 baits combined, 3 different baits combined, probably equaling about a half a can of sardines total between the 3 baits. And I'm going to segregate all 3 baits so they're in different spots. And then I'm going to use 4 lures, and the amount of lures I'm going to use is going to be hardly nothing. All right? And I'm going to also segregate them so that they are individually smelled. Why do I segregate them? Well, even though the animal can smell 9 different odors in one compound for the most part, I want that animal to get excited. I want that animal it's a fat man at a smorgasbord. That's what I want. I want a fat man at a smorgasbord. Also, what I want is at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, that animal may not be hungry for protein. That animal may be hungry for sweets. That animal may not be hungry at all, and he's just curious. And that's where the old fox urine or the gland lure in the back of the cage strap works. Oop, I shouldn't have said that secret. Didn't say that. I don't do that. I don't do that. Okay. But you understand what I'm saying? I'm sparking their interest, their curiosity, their senses, their urges. That's what I'm doing when I'm doing multiple odors. Now, again, I'm not putting a lot of bait or lure out in quantity. Matter of fact, most of my customers for my ADC and my wildlife control, when they're looking at the trap, they'll call me up and say, there's no bait or lure in that trap. There's nothing in that trap to get the animal in. And I say, yeah, there is. And they say, no, there's not. And I'm saying, yeah, there is. And they say, the marshmallow isn't there. And I say, yeah, it's because the squirrel ate it. And they say, well, you got to come rebait it. And I'll say, no, I'm not. Just wait. And then the next morning, they'll call me up and say, hey, there's a raccoon in that trap, or there's a squirrel, or there's a possum or a skunk. And I'll say, yep. And I say, well, how'd that happen? Because there was no bait in it. And I say, yes, there was. You just didn't see it. That's another thing that a little secret thing that we do is I like to hide the baits and lures, even for my collar rooms. I just got finished setting the collar room trap up for a fox. And the trigger that's got the bait on it is hid. It's not out in the open. The animal's got to smell for it, root for it, dig for it a little bit. Not dig for it, but nose for it, if you will. All right. I guess I'll leave it here. This is part 1. I might go on for part 2 later on. I don't know. Depends on my mood. But this is part 1 on baits and lures. Now, one thing I want to say here before I close up. What is a taste bait and lure? Tasty cake, oatmeal, raisin bar, piece of steak, chicken, sardines, dog food, cat food, maple syrup, strawberry juice, strawberry jam, grape jam, persimmons. They're all taste baits and lures. But they all, at some point, well, let me say Redneck's Pride Outdoors, taste baits and lures. They're all taste baits and lures. I got a bunch of them. They're all taste baits and lures, except at some point in the heat, especially in the summertime, if you're using Tasty Cake oatmeal raisin bar, a piece of chicken, sardines, or something like that, strawberry jam, persimmons, whatever. At some point, those taste baits and lures are going to change from taste to curiosity. In other words, at some point they're going to go rancid enough to they're going to go to a point to where the animal doesn't want to eat it. Now in the wintertime, a piece of raw rotten meat, the animal will eat on it like no tomorrow. But you take a can of sardines with maggots crawling in and out of it, and you're going to see the raccoons and even the skunks pass up on it. Now, skunk may go after it for maggots. Matter of fact, so could a raccoon. And I've seen that where the skunk and the raccoon have gone after the maggots and the maggots, but left the sardines. All right, so just remember, you got to taste baits and lures, but if it's not preserved, if it's not stabilized, if it's not stopped at a certain point, it will change into weather conditions. That's where I favor commercial baits and lures, i.e. Redneck's Pride Outdoors. All right. Now I'll leave it there. I'm going to leave it here. This is Redneck's Pride Outdoors. Thoughts from the office. Hey, Mark, I didn't forget about you. I'm going to do that video with the collar room. I just need a little bit of time to do it. I'll talk to you guys later. Redneck's Pride Outdoors.